us in just an opening prayer to start us off?
Thank you for this opportunity to come together to study your word. And we know that we can learn a lot from the Old Testament and the New Testament. Thanks you give us for our help. Who gives who brings this lesson and all the others who participate in bringing these lessons, we can use them, participate, and gain from it too. Be with those that cannot be here today, take care of them, keep them safe. Thank you that we made it here. And help us to know that we have so many different kinds of weather. They all have their own beauty. Sometimes have danger, but you can take care of us. And help us later we go through our study. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Ray. Ecclesiastes 11. Getting the most out of life is what the lesson plan said for both these. I'm going to continue with 7 through 10, but first kind of review 1 through 6. In a review of last week, it kind of says that life can be disappointing and unfair, and sometimes it makes people withdraw and decide not to participate. And Solomon in this thing says to go for it and to get the most out of life. It says something about casting bread on the water. What do you all remember? Anybody remember what that was about? It's the willingness to risk yourself. Is what it was kind of to boil down to on that. It talks about how don't be afraid to risk yourself in doing things for God, and things will still come through. Expect setbacks. Talks about being generous, and the generosity will result in friendships, which will result in, if something happens, you won't be just by yourself to help yourself, but others will help you also. So it just talks about generosity. Expecting setbacks. What you remember his thoughts last week on setbacks and what they were talking about? He talked about a lot of times people do something and it doesn't work out. And I've used the phrase, God must have not wanted me to do that. So I need to go a different direction. But the thing Solomon points out, and this lesson plan points out, is what about Paul? Did Paul have any setbacks? And if setbacks were there to make us go a different direction, then Paul wouldn't do what he did. I press on. And that's what the lesson was about last week, pressing on. It's not, setbacks aren't there to change your direction. Setbacks are there for learning. Setbacks are there for challenging and to get you stronger. It says that Paul walked by faith and not by sight. We tend to protect ourselves from things. It says the people that protect themselves from things don't really get all they need to out of life. Kind of the summary of the 1 through 6 that was studied last week is live the life of faith. Do not be thrown off track by obstacles, and do not be frightened by taking risk. I wanted to share with you at the end of the conclusion of those 6 verses. Cindy and I went up to Kentucky this week to help the tornado victims. And the churches there are doing a very good job. There's a Church of Christ Disaster Relief team that's up there. They have been shut down for 2 weeks due to COVID. The people that are over that got COVID and they had to shut it down. 2 of the largest churches in Mayfield are doing a great job in distribution. They have all their classrooms set aside, and they have one church there that wasn't hit by the tornado, has food goods. If you're hungry, what you have. The other has heaters and yard equipment and stuff like that. and they open it up 3 or 4 times a week for people to come in and get what they need. But there's no room anymore in those 2 large churches for the Church of Christ Disaster Relief Team, because there's 40 to 80 people that come, volunteer, and go out and help the tornado victims. And this passage and this lesson reminds me of this small church that we visited, Walnut Grove Church of Christ. It's a small church, 125 people. But due to COVID and a split last year, they have a massive amount of rooms. And they took it upon themselves when called that said, we will house these people. 80 people in a church of 125. They're going to feed them. And talking with the disaster relief team when we got there Monday, they had already cleaned all the rooms out, repainted some of them, had them disinfected, had a place for everybody to sleep, had their showers cleaned up, because the disaster relief team has a big tractor trailer that comes in that has showers, but they hadn't got there yet because of the COVID stuff. But they had arrangements made for 30 to 40 people. They don't know how they're going to do it, but they jumped out there and did it. So, and they are benefiting from it. But they're tired already, but they're going to do it. So I just wanted to share with you, that's what I'm thinking that we're talking about here as far as taking risk. And they said before the split, which was last year, they don't know if they'd have done it, even though they had more people. Because one of the problems of the split was one group didn't want to change, didn't want to do anything, wanted to just help Church of Christ people, wanted to just do just this thing and didn't want to do anything else. And they said it would have probably been a debate, and it had probably been put on hold, and there had probably been another debate, and it had been 3 or 4 weeks before a decision was made, and that would have been probably too late. So they took a risk, and I think they benefit from that. So that's kind of what the first 6 verses were about, to take that risk. And don't be afraid, and be like Paul. Go through adversity. Ecclesiastes 7 through 10. It talks about, in view of life, vanity and frustration, it is important to make the best of life. Vanity is kind of one of the things that gets in our way. The question I have is, what is vanity? To you, what is vanity? I still didn't hear him. Folly? All right, that's above me. You have to tell me what folly is. But vanity, and I've always thought of it as somebody that thought they were good looking and always primping in the mirror, and when they walk by the mirror, always looking at themselves and always dressing nice and all that kind of stuff. That's what vanity is to me. And emptiness? Thank you. It also means to be proud of your achievements, to brag about what you do. Vanity is taking care of yourself and not doing for others, but doing for others if it makes you look good. And we're going to talk about that some. First, I'd like to start off with verse 7. If I can get somebody to read Ecclesiastes verse 7. Thank you. Light. In the Old Testament, light is meaning goodness and joy of life. In the book of Job, it talks about the light of the wicked goes out. So it's the light, as far as what he's talking about, is goodness and enjoying life and looking at it. Have you ever been around somebody who is very negative and never has fun? Eeyore of the Winnie the Pooh. Have you ever been around somebody like that? You know, when I first become a Christian, or when I first started coming to the church, it was a small church in Morristown, and there were a lot of people that didn't want to have fun. You know, they looked at everything as being bad. Fun is bad. You're supposed to live this life, go these rules, and never have fun. You know, you go to church because you got to go to church. It's not because you want to go to church. You got to go to church. That's what it says. You have to go to church every Sunday. Could never figure out why you went Wednesday night, but every Sunday it does say that. Because you got to go. No, you can't go here. You can't do this. We can't have fun. You know, God, sometimes it's kind of rules, and we can't. If you do that, you're going to go to hell. That's why I don't do it. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that you have a heart of Christ and you don't feel like doing it and you like to do other things and have fun. It's you're going to hell if you have fun. You can't do that. That's how I viewed it on a lot of people's way. And it amazes me that people even want to become a Christian if you can't have fun. I've always had fun. And I don't understand people that don't and are Christians. And that's what it talks about, is you need to have fun. You need to see the light. God doesn't want us to have a bad time. He's not here to be a tyrant. He's here to save us. He's here to show us the things of life and what goes on. You don't do it because you're going to hell. You do it because it's not the right thing to do. And you're trying to have a heart of Christ, or in Solomon's case, a heart of God, and try to do good to other people. One of our blessings as being a Christian is the ability to look beyond circumstances and see life's real meaning, to get some things behind that. You know, why did that happen? What did that do? We need to remember that Satan, not God, is the one that put in vanity in our life. And one of the biggest struggles I have is to try to do things for others, but I want to do something else. You know, and that's where the Satan comes in, and that's where God helps us through that. But the true blessing is that we need to see that we are blessed before this. I've shared with you, I don't know if it's in this class, but I've shared with you that we used to, and I hope we can start again, we used to visit and do visitations on and give the Lord's Supper to the shut-ins. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I didn't really like to do that. I didn't want to do that. But something told me that, you know, it's time to do it. I think at that time the elder said, all the deacons got to do that. That's what got me going on it. And it ended up not all of them had to do that, but that's what got me going. I said, well, there's no reason I couldn't. But once I started, I had a good time doing it. It was just getting over that. I don't want to take up my Sunday afternoon doing this. I would rather do this. So I'm going to help God. I'm going to help these people on Saturday, and I'm going to help these people on Tuesday. But Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do something else. That's what it was. It wasn't that I was uncomfortable about talking to people, because I've never had problem talking to people. It was that I just didn't want to do it. Vanity. I want to do something for myself to do it. And a lot of times these stumbling blocks and these things come to give us strength and to work on that. So there's a lot of good things in life, and God wants us to enjoy it. That's why we're here, to enjoy it. If we can't enjoy life, we can't bring others to Christ, because nobody wants to go with the Eeyore. Nobody wants to go around with that. So we should have a smile on our face. And we should do things and have fun. But we should do the right things. And as we do that, God will show us how to have fun if we look in the right places. Could somebody read verse 8? Thank you. we should enjoy every phase of our life. Looking back at my life, there's not, I've heard a lot of people say, I'll never want to do that again, or I never want to raise kids again, I never want to be in high school again, I never want to be in first grade again. I must have something wrong with it. I liked my whole life. I enjoyed my whole life. Now, I might have enjoyed my high school years because I was Episcopalian and not Church of Christ. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. And I had a good time, and I liked it. And there's not a single thing I wouldn't go back and do again. Now, I might have done things a little bit wiser. I might have done a little bit, not been hurt a feeling or whatever, a little bit better. But I would live my life again, and in the same situation. The parents I thought weren't too good ended up being good parents. Now that I look back, and the experience I had, I learned a lot from that. So every phase is good. He says in this lesson plan that we should look at our wrinkles and think, well, there's something positive about something. I turned 65 last year. I got Medicare. My insurance went down $700. About the only benefit I think of right then, but I'm losing my hearing, so kids don't bother as much running around yelling. But besides that, I don't know what else to look at, but I'm okay. I got a lot of extra time. I can go a lot of places. I enjoy it. I enjoy being up there. I cannot do the things I used to do. And I hurt a lot more when I do the less things I do. But we enjoy every part. I have enjoyed relaxing more. I have enjoyed the feeling of not having to go to work. I have enjoyed the feeling of not worrying about what's going to happen when I'm 80. I'll have the money to be okay. I like that feeling. I like that part of being old, but there's a lot of things I wish I could still do. I'm going to try to go down the ski slope one more time, but I don't know. My knees are twitching some. But there's things that you do, but there's all parts of life that you should enjoy. And he says that you need to enjoy all of them. And looking at it, I've always heard that somebody with a good attitude lives longer. I looked it up on Google. First, I misspelled it, and it was altitude. And did you know that people that live in an altitude of more than 5,000 feet live longer, 2 to 3 years longer? I didn't know that, but I misspelled attitude and got altitude, and I just thought I'd throw that in. So if you live at a real high place and you have a good attitude, you live longer than somebody who lives on the ocean. So there you go, get in the mountains. But it says that if you have a good attitude and a good outlook on life, it said that you live 10 to 15% longer. I know there's other things that get in the way, but attitude is a big difference in life of how we treat things, how we look at things, and what we want to do. I think the 10% is more for the men and the 15 is for the women for some reason, but you still get longer life if you have a good attitude and you look at things that way. Yes. And Jill, thank you for the introduction. This lesson plan skips 9 and goes back 9 and goes to 10, which, Jill, can you read 10, verse 10? Okay. That's correct. That's correct. Verse 10. Don't worry about things. Don't be frustrated. Vexation, I think I pronounced that right, but that is in a lot of the versions of this verse, and it says state of being annoyed, frustrated, or worried. Doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't matter how mad you get, those two tractor trailers that are in front of you going 55 and 56 are not going to get out of the way. Because one's going to pull up and then one's going to pull up. So you might as well just go 55 and save gas. You know, because it's not going to do any good to be frustrated on that. There's things that happen. You know, your grandkids aren't going to act like sometimes you want them to, but sometimes their parents, your kids, aren't going to do what you think they ought to do. But I didn't do what my parents thought I was going to do, so don't be frustrated about it. Just live with it. You know, enjoy it, watch it, then send them home. You know, it's just one of those things in life. Don't get aggravated. Don't get frustrated with life. It also says that no one can remove all the pain and frustration from life, but we should remove all we can and try to go on and move on. That's not to say there's going to be potholes in your life and things in your life that you won't remember and won't make you sad, but we can't dwell on them. We've got to go with a positive attitude and look at other things and try to learn from the different things. Now we go back to verse 9. Can somebody read verse 9 for me? So kind of summarizing that, young people, enjoy your life, but remember God's watching. Okay? We should have a balance of life. We should look at life as a balance. We have a responsibility to do, and we should do that. We should look at the different things in life and kind of just work with them and get over them. When I was reading this and kind of studying this and looking at it, I had a class reunion 2 years ago. There's a guy there that is, he died a few months ago. It was a friend of mine, Charlie Cluck. Now, I'm glad I didn't have his name. Charlie Cluck was an outstanding basketball player. His sophomore year, he started for our team, and it was our Morristown's a 4A school. It was a 3A then, but it was one of the largest schools in the area. But he was a phenomenal basketball player. But he was a country bumpkin. His hair looked country. He wore country. He wore boots when nobody else wore boots. He wore an old T-shirt when it wasn't cool. He wore old T-shirts. That's all he had. Slowest guy I've ever seen walking down the hall. Biggest feet, biggest hands. Had that farmer grin, and always had. Back then, you could have tobacco. You could chew tobacco at our school as long as you didn't spit. Okay, you could only spit outside. He always had tobacco in his mouth, and this funny grin, and his hair that gets everywhere. Nice guy, slow mover. Every time they announced his name when we were playing basketball, the other team make fun of him. Charlie Cluck. There'd be chicken sounds, there'd be rooster sounds, there'd be all kinds of sounds. I remember one game that he was going down the court, and this point guard was bugging him to death, making fun of his name, making fun of his shoes, because we had to supply our own shoes, and he didn't have good shoes, making fun of everything he had. He put a move on him, put a layup, came back, looked at him, said, "You got clucked," and went on down the field. Well, one of us heard it. So from then on, when he'd make a move on somebody, the whole student body would say, "You got clucked." He made the most out of that name. Didn't bother him. That was his name. He was proud of his name. He was proud of his family. But he made the most out of it. It didn't frustrate him. He didn't let the point guard frustrate him. He just grinned and went on. That's what we should do in life. We got obstacles in front of us. Yes, they're there, but we should really put them in reality and know where they stand and don't let them bother us. Because so many times it's vanity that bothers us more than really the thing itself. And that's what God will help us do. Question. What do we know or have that the wise King Solomon didn't seem to know? That's it. We have Jesus. A lot of these things, when he's talking about this stuff, when you read it, it says, do this because you're only going to be here for a while, and when it's done, it's done. That's not our story. It's not done. So wise Solomon knew that this life under the sun is what he's been talking about. This whole Ecclesiastes is under the sun. What our life is here on earth is going to be over, so you might as well make the best out of it and do what you need to do. And this is all about how we live under the sun or here on earth. But I don't know if he really knew about Jesus. I don't really know that he knows about that. He was saying be happy just because of what they have, all these laws and Jewish stuff that they had to do as far as you got to do this and this and this and this and this. But you need to be happy. He didn't really realize Jesus, what kind of relief Jesus can give to us at that time. But yet he was saying be good here. Because God is watching. But what we know is, yes, God's watching, but Jesus has the blinders on him. That he's going to step in for us if we have that. Because that's the one part of Ecclesiastes we don't know. Or he didn't know at that time. He didn't know about Jesus. Now, he may have known he might have come or not. I don't know. I'm not a Bible person as far as scholar. He might have known, he might not know, but I don't think he did at that time know about Jesus and what we will get from that. Because I think a lot were confused when Jesus was here. But if you're supposed to be happy and not even have Jesus, then with Jesus we're really supposed to be happy. I'm looking at that. But life must be played according to the rules. God cannot change nature for us. That's part of what's here. He's not going to stop tornadoes. He's not going to stop different things happening. He allows us to deal with them. He allows us to help other people with them. He allows us to show Jesus to other people through what we do for them. But he's not going to stop the nature of our environment. He's not going to stop the earthquakes and things. That's nature. That's what takes place. Global warming, I don't know. I don't know if that's us or just what's going on. But he's not going to stop nature and what it does. There's a person quoted that's named Frank Pack, and he says, nature is not flinty, but faithful. Now, does anybody here besides me not know what flinty means? Maybe somebody can tell us what flinty means. I looked it up. Flinty, F-L-I-N-T-Y. I know because I looked it up, but I had no idea what the guy was saying. And that's what my problem is with a lot of philosophy. I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't have the vocabulary needed to understand some of the philosophers. But flinty means hard and unyielding. Comes from flint, which is rock, which is hard. Makes sense, but I hadn't never heard of that before. But nature is not flinty, it's not hard, but faithful. It's just normal. Now, looking at that, what in the world does that mean? It means when winds come and storms of life come, we should learn from them. That's what they're there for. They're obstacles, but we should learn from them and make the best out of it. One of the things that Cindy and I enjoyed doing this week was working with a group from Minnesota. A bunch of Minnesota farmers that said they came down because they had nothing else to do because there's snow on the ground. They can't do anything till spring, and spring comes in April. So they got their big diesel trucks, and they got their tractors, and they got all their stuff, and they come down and they work. They're from a small church up there, and they know about the Church of Christ Disaster Relief Team, and they come down and they're going to spend 2 weeks because they ain't got nothing else to do but sit in the house and watch it snow. But they did it in short sleeves. It was 23 degrees, and they were in short sleeves. Cindy and I were freezing, and they were walking around like it was a spring day. I mean, it got up to a high of 32. It was sunny, but they had been accustomed to the weather. They say they can't come down here in the summertime because they can't make it. They can't survive. Nature, we have a tendency to acclimate to where we live. That's what we should do as Christians. We should make things the best we can. They came down, it was like a summer vacation, 23 degrees. We were up there with gloves and hats and all sorts of stuff on. Took a few of them off as we were pulling different things out and doing different things, but weather is there, but we should be able to accommodate it. God will let us do that. They weren't big guys. Well, they said it's a nice day. They said a day like today that they'd be out plowing. It wasn't any big deal to them. They said their cows would love it. They'd probably all move down here, except in the summertime. But it's just one of those things that you get used to what you're around, and if you let God control what you're around, then you get used to having a good attitude and understanding why things happen, and you can stand back and learn the things. And that's what Solomon is saying. Enjoy life. We're going to have stumbles. We're going to have problems. We're going to have things that happen. But in the long run, be happy. God's got this. And we have the added benefit of Jesus. We could be happier than Solomon. Brings up one of the things that they said in this lesson study. A lot of us will say, have a good day when you see somebody or when you leave and you say, have a good day. They suggest, instead of saying that, say, make a good day when you leave. Make a good day. Whatever happens, make it good. That makes more sense than have a nice day. Have a nice day is based on emotion. Make a nice day is based on your attitude and what you do. Yes. Yeah. And that's what we all struggle with. what Jill said was, I don't know if you all heard what she said, but she said, sometimes we might want to ask God to help us. If we can do what God wants us to do, we can always be happy. And sometimes we might need help with that. And maybe part of our prayer in the morning when we get up is to God, help me to want to be what you want me to be. Because we all struggle. We all got things to do and want to do different things and got this and this and this and this and this. And we put things off that we don't want to do, or we do this because we're selfish sometimes. But with that attitude, if we can have the attitude that God wants us to have, life's good. No matter what happens, life's good. And people will see that life's good for us in these types, and they will want to be part of God's family. And that's what our purpose is here, is to make people want to be part of our family. That's our number one goal here in life. And to have fun doing it. It's not, I got to go over here and do this. I got to go over and do this. It's, I get to come over and do that. I get to go help this person. I get to go study this or do this. It's all in attitude. So, in looking at Ecclesiastes 11, to get the most out of life, we need to do what? That's a question open to, all this. What have you got out of Ecclesiastes 11? What are some of the things that we need to do to get the most out of life, according to King Solomon? Or really according to what we believe. What are some of the things that we need to do? I'll start off. We need to go for it. Okay? We need to get off our behind and get it done. Okay? We don't need to procrastinate. We need to go for it. What's something else we need to do? Enjoy. Enjoy us doing it. It's not a job. It's a pleasure to do. Enjoy it. What's something else? Do it without seeking personal gain. Yes. Be generous. Be positive. Learn from adversity. It's not there to punish us. It's not there to change our direction. It's there to build character. Dad used to say it to me all the time. Build character. Go do it anyway. Go back and do it. And if that didn't work, he said, do it because I told you to. But most time I got it the second or third time that I knew what the fourth answer was going, or question was, or demand was going to be. So I went ahead and did it. But, learn from it and go back and get on it. If you stop, you never enjoy and you never grow. If you quit working out because it hurts, then you're going to fall apart. God is watching. He does. And if we keep Him in our hearts and minds, we'll know how to get through that. Sometimes it might take longer than we want it to, but we'll know how to get through that. Would you go ahead and lead us in a closing prayer, and we'll go from there. Amen. Thank you.